Hello, this is the Council on Independent Fundamental Bible Doctrine. I'm doing my next video in the Amazing Word series. It is titled Food and Drug Administration. Okay, there are certain things in the Bible that are written regarding health, okay, and some of them are in regards to eating things or medicinal stuff, and the Bible knows about a lot of things before humanity did, and a lot of these things demonstrate that ahead of its time knowledge. Okay, and that's what we're going to look at today. All right, let's look at the first one. Ezekiel 47:12, trees shall be for food and leaves for its medicine. This verse shows the Bible had knowledge of healing compounds in plants. Though we have used herbs and remedies for some time, this verse was written 600 years before Christ, over 2,600 years ago. Some of these things, like this one, were pointed out in the garden, okay? That, well, not this one per se, but like this one, like farming, okay? And interestingly enough, the things like farming, okay, planting, growing, those things that are mentioned in the garden, history cannot go back and find the beginning of them. Okay, why can history not find the first farmer ever? Well, that's because the first person created was told to grow crops in the Garden of Eden. You see, that's why there's no historical beginning to farming, because it began at the beginning. That's how well the Bible fits, just perfectly, perfectly. But here we see medicinal remedies in leaves and herbs and such. Deuteronomy 14:8, and the swine, because it divideth not the hoof, yet cheweth not the cud, it is unclean to you. You shall not eat of their flesh, nor touch their dead carcass. Science has just recently, in the 1900s, figured out that animals that chew the cud, that is, eat their food, bring it back up from their stomach to chew it some more, will more fully digest their food and will also more thoroughly eradicate impurities from the food. The pig only has one stomach and quickly digests its food, while many other animals, such as bovines, have multiple stomachs and chew the cud, digesting their food and separating the impurities out of it. The Bible shows that there is knowledge of these things 4,000 years prior to science catching up. The interesting thing is that the Bible goes on to say to avoid several other types of animals as food. In general, the Bible says avoid meat eaters. It's like the Bible knew that meat eaters would have germs or bacteria or worms. They could have those things. Okay? Or other things wrong with the meat because they ate meat and that meat could have been tainted. The Bible clearly goes on to say not to eat animals that are scavengers. Interestingly enough, I also remember my mom saying, make sure you cook your pork done. Or make sure you cook this or that done. Make sure it's all the way done. Beef, however, can be eaten with a little pink in it. So science eventually caught up with the Bible, but it took almost 4,000 years. Okay, there are certain animals that you can eat and have less of a chance of having problems than if you eat other animals, and it goes right along the lines of what God told the people to eat and not eat. Right along the lines. Leviticus 22:8. That which dieth of itself or is torn of beasts, he shall not eat or defile himself therewith. I am the Lord. So if an animal dies on its own or is killed of another animal, don't eat it. Why? Because it could have germs or bacteria that could make you sick. You don't know why the animal died. It may have been sick itself. You say it doesn't say that. Well, then, there's other verses. And every soul that eateth that which dieth of itself, or that which is torn of beast, whether it be one of your own country or a stranger, he shall both wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. Then shall he be clean. Okay, not only do we see it was because the Bible knew it could cause sickness, demonstrating knowledge of bacteria and germs, but we see the instructions of isolation or quarantine protocols and germ protocols that are used. And an interesting note is that E. coli and other such bacteria usually form in a few hours after ingesting it in food. And how long does the Bible say to watch the possible violator who's eating these things? Till evening. So that would be a matter of hours. And earlier, one of these, for sickness, regular sickness, not through something you've eaten necessarily, said 7 days of isolation protocol. This one, that is due to bacteria that is eaten, is just for so many hours till evening. The Bible knows the difference between the amount of time a sickness germ needs to take effect and incubate, and the amount of time a bacteria that is ingested needs to take in effect, to take effect. This is written almost 4,000 years prior to humanity even knowing what a germ or bacteria was. And yet, not only do they give regulations based on what the germs and bacteria are going to do to you, but they even know the amount of time it takes for you to determine whether you're sick or not. For each one. Just over and over and over again. Just knowledge beyond what anybody should have had at that time. All right? All right, well, thanks a lot. I'll get the next one on when I can.